It can be a total turnoff from someone wanting to work with your brand. If they feel like you use ChatGPT in a lazy way and they can detect it from the jump, you maybe are tarnishing your own brand reputation in that way. That being said, for our clients from like a social media perspective, branding perspective, blogging, website perspective, I'm always trying to use the ChatGPT as like an editor or an assistant writer or something where it's like, here's my concept. Yes, give me an outline. Let me flesh it out. How could I have said this sentence more succinctly? Reduce this information by 45%. You know what I mean? Like that, using it in those ways to do the actual like technical work of the writing is really helpful. Greetings and welcome back to the Kiss My Aesthetic podcast. We've got a duo today, which is always fun. I love three people in a podcast, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves after I say hi. Welcome, Jessie and KP. Inkpot Creative is on the pod.
Hey, thanks so much for having us. I'm KP, she, her, and I'm the founder of Inkpot Creative, which is a queer-led brand and web design studio helping photographers who are leading their industry by doing something different really create unconventional brands and websites.
Love that.
And I am Jessie, also she, her, and I am kind of the media operations manager, web developer, catch-all person for a lot of different stuff here at Inkpot, but a big part of mine is also development and actually bringing all of the designs that KP makes to life on our websites for our clients.
Oh, yeah. I remember this from the last time we chatted of like this good yin yang energy, right? We've got visionaries and integrators and all of that good, happy stuff. To go back and find episode 187 is the first time that we all got to chat together. But today I want us really to focus about websites, building strong website presence. I know we're singing those praises till the cows come home. But what you guys have really been focusing on recently is building good blog presence. And it feels like maybe it's 2014 all over again, like the blogger era. But talk to us a little bit about why people should invest and be regularly spending time adding high quality content to their website. Because I think we all forgot to do this along the way.
I think one of the biggest things that we've seen when it comes to the benefits of blogging over maybe some other social media, other types of marketing, is that it really intentionally draws in the exact type of people that you want to work with. So instead of putting a post out there or putting some marketing out there that you're just like, it's going to find who it finds, or I have no idea who's going to come across this, you are specifically looking for keywords, specifically writing on topics that is what you want to do. So like we work with a lot of wedding photographers. So we're specifically writing on wedding venues they like to be at, different, states and cities, and like the best places to go there, best places to take engagement photos, like all of these things, so that when people are searching these questions, these are people that are already kind of pre-qualified and pre-filtered into the types of services, the type of work, the types of places that these people want to work in. So it's not so much I'm getting these people and they have no idea what I do, or they have no idea if I'm the right fit. We're already kind of checking off a couple boxes because we're leading them in that right direction. So having, that something working in the background for you. You put out the blog post. We've had clients where they're still getting views on their blog posts from like 2 years ago, and like it's still bringing in clients. And like, when's the last time a social media post from 2 years ago did anything for you? So like it's that long-term strategy, but it's bringing in the exact type of people that you want to work with.
And it's that low and slow traffic, right? It's cumulative, it's evergreen, it's going to keep bringing those people in and the qualified people in for that higher conversion. I also think that hosting content on your own website, again, which I think a lot of us have forgotten to do as service providers, myself included, is that you're asking way less of the consumer to just get to that contact form because they can see that button right in the top, versus asking someone to view an Instagram post, to then go to your link in bio, to then click that. When people have these link in bios that are like 47 buttons long, I'm like, where's your damn website? Like, why can I not just click? It makes me so frustrated. Those are so many hurdles for someone to jump over to actually get to working with you, that I think I've got to imagine that hosting blogs within your own website, that's just such an easier ask. And if you want to work with us, here's how. Boop. So KP, talk to us about just the customer experience of reading blogs and then converting to being clients.
So when it comes to that, honestly, one of the biggest things we always tell our clients, and like the same thing that we do when we blog for our clients, is that you need to think of your reader first. So I know like it's so easy to just be like me. Like everyone says, try to avoid talking about yourself. And that's true as well when it comes to blogging. So when people land on a blog post, they're looking for an answer. Like when you go on Google, you search something, you are trying to find a solution to like whatever it is that you're searching. The same goes with blog posts. So you always want to lead like education first, which I know is very strange to think, especially when you're like in a service industry, because you want to just be like, look at my amazing couple, look at this amazing project I worked on. But you need to just answer their question. And then the smart way to do that, to kind of show your expertise throughout, is to weave your own stories in there. So like if we kind of go off a photographer example, let's say you really are used to writing blog posts about couples. That's like what we see first and foremost. Instead, you want to change it and kind of write like about the venue a little bit more. So try to write more about like a specific wedding at that venue and then weave the story of your couple throughout. And you can talk about all the different things that you know about that venue and kind of weave your expertise in there instead of just straight up being like, Joel and Linda had such an amazing wedding day and here's why they're awesome, right? Because only Joel and Linda are going to want to read that. No one else is going to want to.
Totally.
And then, of course, having those calls to actions throughout too. And at the end, like just kind of do more of a soft CTA and kind of be like, if you're looking to get married at this venue too, you can come over to my contact form or my services page and learn more.
Yeah, I ran into this recently with a client we were helping with. They have a landscape design group and they had every project was like nicknamed something clever. And I was like, I understand that like that's what you guys called the project on your team, but like no one's searching Nicole's garden. Like people are searching backyard remodel with pool and plunge pool, backyard barbecue, outdoor kitchen. Like we got to start. And this is where I think like people get intimidated by search terms and intimidated by SEO. And I am one of those people. I am like, I am not a back end person. I am not a data analytics person. I want to see it look pretty. And so we're working with a team, Searchlight Digital, who was on the podcast, and they helped me kind of like find my keywords that I should be ranking for. And I'm like, oh, well, this makes a lot of sense. But for someone who has never even stepped a toe in that pond, but not even thought about it, Jessie, what are some of the things that you wish people would understand about what SEO actually is and what it does?
So I feel like one of the biggest kind of mistakes and things that we see is there's a difference between website keywords and blog keywords. And this is something that we see people struggle with a lot. And when it comes to that, what we mean by that is website keywords are going to be super general keywords. So like ours, show it web designer. Like that could be a website keyword. That's super general, not super niche. It covers everything because we want to kind of hit those bigger search terms. And these are going to be ones that might be a little bit more difficult to search or to rank for. It might have some higher searches than you would see on blog content. But then with blog keywords, we want to get super, super niche. So that's what you're saying, like backyard barbecue. That's not going to be a website keyword. That's going to be really awkward as a website keyword. But as a blog keyword, that's what people are looking for. So kind of thinking about your website keywords are the services that you offer or the location you are. If you are location based, like limiting it to one city, one state is super great with that. And then blog keywords are those really niche things. Each individual project that you work with, each type of client that you work with. Maybe you're a copywriter and you can write on, photographers. And then maybe you have web designers and you have other service pros or whatever it might be. Writing on those kind of more niche topics is what you're going to draw in with that blog keywords. And that's what's going to help bring in those people who are looking for that exact thing. They're looking to put a pool in their backyard and figure out how to do that and what they need to know. Like those are the questions that people are going to be asking. And I think the flip side of it is you also sometimes have to write for what people are searching for, not necessarily what you want to write. So there's a difference between those two. And you can spend all of your time writing what you think are the best blog posts in the world. And if absolutely no one is searching for that topic, you just wasted all of your time. And that's not going to do anything for you for bringing people in straight from Google. So as hard as it can be sometimes, doing that keyword research first is always our suggestion. Figuring out what people are looking for, what they're searching for, and also how they word things. Because you as an expert in your industry might use different language or terminology or ways of explaining things than someone who isn't in your industry will. So there's times where even just flipping the order of things, like if you're doing like a CRM, like I can tell you Honeybook versus Dubsado and Dubsado versus Honeybook are both keywords, but one can have a drastically different search volume than the other. And so the articles are the same. You're talking about the same thing, but if you put Honeybook first instead of Dubsado first, you might triple your search volume. And like small things like that can make a big difference. So taking some time, not kind of rushing in and being like, well, I just want to write about this, so I'm going to do this. But like taking the time to look at it and, figure out what people are searching for, how they're actually saying it, and then build your blog content around that. Still write on the topics you want to write on, interweave, your own thoughts, interweave the, main points that you want to touch, but make sure you're doing it in a way that actually gives you a chance to rank and pull in these people.
And inserting your expertise along the way, right? Like you're able to write on this topic because you are the expert. So even though it's maybe not the subject that's, again, you're not sharing your personal life story, which sounds, well, when you were describing that, I was like, oh, that sounds like something that somebody would put on Substack. Like that feels like that's the platform for that, or like an email newsletter, right? But when it comes to your blog, even when I was scrolling through your guys' blog before this episode, I was like, oh, they're really doing a good job of like answering FAQs as blog topics. And I was like, I saw one that you had, I clicked through it right away. It was like, what is brand collateral for photographers? And I was like, oh, this is brilliant. I was like, because I get this question on discovery calls. And if people are asking on the discovery call, they're definitely Googling it when I'm saying we're including brand collateral. So, KP, talk to me a little bit about that and about how, also, I'm curious to know, and I'd love to get into this topic with you guys, how AI enabled search is starting to change how it crawls your website and how people end up on your pages.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to FAQs, I'm just trying to think of blog content. My best piece of advice is like, first of all, obviously think about like all the questions you're asked in emails, the questions you're constantly asked, even on like your discovery calls, whatever you call them. And then also like even the questions that you actually list as FAQs on your service page, pretty much all of those could just be elaborated into a blog post. And 9 times out of 10, people are searching for them. Also, you can go back through all of your posts on Instagram, all of your threads that you've made, all of your Facebook posts, your YouTube videos, if you make those, your podcasts, all of that can pretty much just be elongated and turned into a blog post because you have so much content out there already and you really don't need to reinvent the wheel. When it comes to AI, I have seen so many mixed things about like AI search. I personally don't know a whole lot like yet about how to actually rank in ChatGPT. I know there's definitely a lot of people out there who know a lot more about that, but from what I've seen, like it also depends on like the account you're using and everything like that, but you can start to get found through AI. From what I have kind of seen like on my own side of ChatGPT is that it's kind of just pulling things that are ranking already on Google. So the more that you're writing these blog posts and the better you're finding yourself ranking on Google, the higher the chance that you can actually get like pulled through and recommended through something like AI.
But even Google is now starting to rank your like Instagram captions, your TikToks, your YouTube videos. Like I think that that's the point we're saying here is when you can assert your expertise online consistently and talk about the same things consistently and talk about them well and get traffic to them, you're just helping your chances across the board, right? So all of that's going to kind of come into play. Jessie and maybe or KP, either one of you could take this one. A lot of people use ChatGPT to write their blog posts. Why is or isn't that a good idea?
So for us, we would say it is not the best idea to write your entire post with ChatGPT. And one of the things that we're seeing Google lean towards is Google likes unique content and like kind of like we've been talking about, content that shows your expertise and shows that you personally know what you're talking about. So the difficulty with writing with ChatGPT is if you're like, hey, write me a blog post on this venue, it is going to go online to things that are already online and reword stuff, maybe in your tone if you've trained it well enough, but it is just going to regurgitate the same information that other people have online. So those personal experiences, those little kind of signifiers to Google that you're like, I actually do this on a daily basis is, something that is a benefit to you and can be a boost and a bonus. So we're not totally like, if you want to use AI to maybe help you come up with an outline or figure out the flow of it or anything like that, or even take your blog post and then repurpose it into other things and social media posts and stuff like that, that's one thing. But taking it and having it write everything kind of pulls out the chance for you to put that personal information in there, put those things that highlight you, highlight things that you've done, highlight, issues or roadblocks that your clients have seen that you're like, here's what they were facing before, here's how we addressed that issue, here's how we got over it through, XYZ service, whatever it might be. And I think we're eventually gonna see that it kind of favors that over stuff that's AI. And then on the actual client side, with more people using AI, I think people are getting better at understanding what is AI written and what isn't AI written. So if they're landing on your blog post, and especially if you're just like copy paste from ChatGPT, there's a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, that was
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT wrote that. So this isn't anything that like I probably could have gotten there and asked that same question.
Totally. It can be a total turnoff from someone wanting to work with your brand. If they feel like you use ChatGPT in a lazy way and they can detect it from the jump, you maybe are tarnishing your own brand reputation in that way. That being said, for our clients from like a social media perspective, branding perspective, blogging, website perspective, I'm always trying to use the ChatGPT as like an editor or an assistant writer or something where it's like, here's my concept. Yes, give me an outline. Let me flesh it out. How could I have said this sentence more succinctly? Reduce this information by 45%. You know what I mean? Like that, using it in those ways to do the actual like technical work of the writing is really helpful. But what our team's been working on is the woman who writes my show notes. Her name's Sarah. She's helping me go back into our 200 plus episodes and create blog topics based on similar themes of episodes that we already have. And so then we use ChatGPT, we give it the transcript and we say, give me back a pull quote and a timestamp of when we actually talked about that thing. And that's been great for us because it's allowed us to, again, like resurface and repurpose things that have already been made that we could pop back up to the top. You guys are nodding along. I know it's a podcast, but tell me where you think this is either a good strategy or not so good strategy.
Yeah, I love using Chatty for things like that, especially when not me calling it Chatty, but especially when it comes to even with blogging, I save a lot of time even writing alt text with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like you can just, find exactly what you want. You need to like basically write like the perfect prompt, obviously. Like I want alt text with this many characters, like no more, please be super specific. You send that in there with your photos and it can send you back like better alt text than maybe you would have even written. So I love using it for things like that, especially when it's something that could be a little more time consuming.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've seen is any of the different AI programs work way better when you're giving it your own content that you have created and then building stuff off of that versus saying, write this for me or create this for me. That kind of like, here's my own content, take this and form it into something different gives you that better it gives you the better output too. I think those are the things that you
Totally.
get it back and you're like, this sounds like me. This actually like touches on the points that I want to touch on. It's not just spewing random things. And then you also don't have to go and like fact check a bunch of things because sometimes you're like, is that actually true? Like it gives you numbers and you're like, let me like Google that real quick. And then you're like, I could have just written this because now I'm doing the research on my own anyway. So I
Right.
think,
Right.
using it in a way where you're giving it the content, you're giving it your own stuff and asking it to kind of analyze it or, figure out what's best or rewrite certain things. I think that's what we've seen has worked really well as a way to kind of utilize AI and do it in a way that feels good for you and your business and doesn't feel, awkward when clients are actually interacting with it.
Yeah, and your output is only as good as your input, right? And I love a food analogy because I think everyone understands food is like if you ask ChatGPT, if we lived in a world where you could say ChatGPT make me a pizza, like it'll make you a pizza. But if you put in the ingredients, it's like, no, I wanted a flatbread with gorgonzola cheese and grass-fed steak and arugula and da 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 da. You're gonna get a much different output than like what ChatGPT thinks is a pizza, which is probably gonna be like bread, sauce, cheese to pepperoni, right? So it's like we have to think about it that way too. Is like you can only get out of it what you're putting into it. And so if you're not being specific and not using good high quality ingredients, right? And the same thing, like now that ChatGPT has these ingredients, and now I decide I don't want a pizza, I want a sandwich. It's got the ingredients. Like we know that it's going to be of quality because I put in quality ingredients. So I think that that's something that I always try to describe to clients is like we have to think about it in that way and use it as a tool and not as a replacement. Where else in your business are you guys helping clients really understand the difference of that? Like, is that coming across? Do you think people are understanding that by the time they're working with you, or are they still kind of confused by the whole space?
I think people are getting more and more used to it.
Yeah.
And I think as more resources are coming out and also as more like people are using it in their everyday lives, they're kind of understanding the difference in the output and like the quality of stuff that's coming out and how to actually do things in their own brand voice. I know there's been a lot of more, articles and stuff come out about making sure that it is in your brand voice and actually teaching, all these different things, how to
Yeah.
store your store your voice and how you talk or your brand values or whatever it might be. So I think a lot of our clients have kind of had that base, understanding of how to create this. It's more so being like, here's how you can take this content, like taking your own content
Yeah,
and being like, break this up, taking your own content and being like, how can I reuse this into an Instagram post, or how can I make this into a, script for a TikTok or an Instagram reel or something like that.
right.
And I think kind of swinging it that way and having people understand that, like, if we can give it, like you said, if we can give it all the ingredients, if we can give it all the information, what we're going to get out is so much better. And I think that's kind of mitigated the like back and forth of the like, well, I'm asking it to do things, but like everything it gives me is terrible. And you're like, well, you gotta make sure we're giving it all of this information that we want it to understand before we actually, can expect it to have an output that we like.
Yeah, I think a lot of the discourse we're also hearing online is how burnout everyone is by output, or what they think needs to be their output. It's like, oh, I don't have time to blog. I'm already doing my Instagram, my TikTok threads, podcast, this, that, and running my business. Like there's just kind of this exhaustion and overwhelm. And I keep trying to remind people that like at some point, if quantity and quality are both sides of the scales here, right? Like I'd always rather see you invest in high quality things at less frequency than high frequency, high volume, and worse quality. Um, how are you walking clients through that, KP? Like where are you helping them strike the balance between how much they need to produce as business owners versus what's really going to help get them the maximum reward for their effort?
I think we luck out a lot in the sense that because we work with photographers, they mostly just
Yeah.
want to post a lot of their work. But we've really kind of taken the route of educating our clients on the fact that long form content should always come first. And of course, like our clients aren't usually the ones that have something like a podcast or a YouTube channel, but
Sure.
that's kind of where like the blogging comes in. So even when it comes to like our one-on-one blog service, we're always like, you should take the blog posts we write and you can break them up. You can write, carousel posts, just pulling things directly from what we're giving you. You can post them on threads. You can put them on Facebook. Like you can put them pretty much anywhere and just save yourself a lot of time. And again, that also kind of helps them to keep up their quality because they're basically just taking something that's already been created instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
I think that the blogging also creates a really nice safety net in times of chaos on the internet, because let's call that what it is of this year, especially of I it's wild to like be on a break between calls, pull up your phone, and I have no idea what I'm gonna get on this screen anymore. And it makes me want to delete everything because I'm like, I and then on top of that, I'm posting on Instagram. And after building my community for 10 years and getting it up to like 16,000 followers on Instagram and like 74,000 on TikTok, and I post and you're telling me 14 people have seen it. And I'm like, well, this is completely deflating. So talk to me a little bit about how, and either of you can take this one, how the blogging ends up being this. We talked about it being consistent. We talked about it being maybe before the more behind the scenes and being this kind of like constant current. But where do you think user behavior with social media is going to change? Like where are you anticipating if people have only built their business on social? That's a lot of eggs in that billionaire owned basket.
Yeah, I think you're totally right in the sense that, like, even when I open up anything, there's so much going on in the world. And, like, there's so many, I know there's all the people who are like, breaking news. And, like, they report breaking news on TikTok. And then every single post, you're like, there's 14 breaking news stories today.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what, like, nothing's just regular news anymore. Like, everything's
Correct.
breaking news. So I think people are overwhelmed in a sense of like all of the stuff that's coming at them. And the great thing is I don't think people are ever going to stop googling things. I think Google is a place where people are never going to just stop.
Correct.
And the other side of it is your website, the content that is on your website is not controlled by social media outlets, and it is not reliant on that social media platform staying. So obviously it's gone back and forth with TikTok, whether TikTok is going to be here, whether it's going to be banned, what's going to happen with the algorithm if it changes hands. Like there's so much up there. Instagram in the past year, it's gone down like twice, and people are like, oh my God, the
Panicked.
only way I get clients is on Instagram. So what happens if Instagram goes away? But like your website isn't just going to vanish because someone else decides that the platform isn't going to be here anymore. And so I think having that security builds one thing. It is something that takes a little time. So obviously the longer you wait to do it, the longer it is before you're going to see those results come back to you. But it is something that's going to continue to build and grow on itself. It's going to snowball. and you can start ranking faster. You can start bringing in more traffic. You're that expert. We like to create kind of like content series. So people look at your blog and they're like, wow, I can find 14 posts on this one topic that I'm thinking about, covering it from like every single angle that I could possibly ever need to know. But then you take all that content, you can put it on social media. So even if you're like, I don't know what to post. And I feel like a lot of us get in that sense of burnout from even just like being on the app because we're like, there's so
Yes.
many trends, there's so many things to keep up with. I have no idea what to post. I don't know what people are looking at. And then I'm getting like 4 likes on my post. So now I'm like, why am I even doing
Yep.
this? And if we take all of that
Right.
question out of like what to post and are just like, take this long form content that you have, break it down. I mean, KP does our marketing, but I don't think there's been a new idea on our social media that hasn't been on some form of blog, podcast, YouTube video like in the past year. Everything we do is
Yeah.
repurposed from other things, and it makes it so much easier and less of a lift on your end. But then you're
Yeah.
also getting the benefit of SEO. You're getting the benefit of that website traffic that isn't going to go away, even if the social media platforms do.
Right. Right. KP, you have more to add to that?
I was also going to say, it even also kind of takes out the closeness that I feel because
Yes.
I'm not like coming up with the ideas like specifically for Instagram because instead, like I'm like, you know what? It performed really well on email. It performed really well on the podcast. So then it makes me not feel like as butthurt if it gets like, 2 likes or 3 people see it
Right.
on my Instagram.
Right. Right. No, it is this weird balance that we have to play, right? Where it's like, I'm finding that exactly is I had so many clients coming to me from TikTok, from Instagram, etc. And it's like, okay, if I'm not doing that as much, or we're taking on bigger clients that we're not sharing as much about their project behind the scenes because we're waiting for them to launch. So now there's this whole dead zone in our content because I used to share everything the second that I was working on it. And I was getting on Instagram stories every day as the founder, like face to camera. And so if you strip some of that back, or like that's just not part of the business model anymore. That's why I'm so grateful to the podcast because it's the most consistent marketing effort that I do because I record all the episodes and I've got a process and it's running in the background. And there's an episode that drops every single week without fail, regardless of what's going on in the world. Like I'm not going to hold back my podcast episode about branding because there's something else going on. Like it's still serving that audience and it doesn't feel as like insensitive maybe, or it doesn't feel as, because people are opting in, they're seeking the information, they're subscribed, they know that there's a little bit of that, more there's a production time here that like I can't anticipate if there's going to be some crazy tragedy happening on the day that the podcast drops. Like we're going to continue on versus on Instagram or TikTok, like it's almost, there's so much of a social pressure to talk about every single issue the second that it happens, which I think is important to a degree. And then it gets really crippling. Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's hard because there's a lot of things that sometimes you're like, I want to talk about this, but also there's a lot of people where they're like, I'm not an expert on this, so I don't want to weigh in on this and
Yeah.
not like know the full story and not have done my research on my own and put something out there that maybe isn't right or maybe like it's not, my place to say it. But on the flip side, we are still running our own business and we can't just not post anything at all ever. And we
Right.
can't completely avoid marketing ourselves. And so I think like you said, finding those ways that are going to be those more consistent ways that, you can put it out and it's just, it's always going to go out. It's always there. It's consistent. It's maybe also not on those channels that people are looking at when it comes to some of this other stuff. Like they're not
Right.
necessarily always going to blogs to learn about, breaking news that is happening
Right.
or anything like that.
Right.
So it kind of gives you those other spaces, which I think is why it's super important in general, regardless of what's going on, to have different marketing channels because you never know what's going to happen to one of them. And if everything is on one spot, like if something happens to that platform, if something happens that, people don't follow you or accounts get deleted, people get unfollowed, like whatever it might be, there's so many things up in the air if you have everything in one channel. But when you diversify, it gives you that chance to kind of expand your reach, expand who you're actually connecting with, but then also how you can put that content out.
Yeah, I think having stuff hosted on your blog as well, and if someone's curious enough that they've clicked the blog and then they can come over to your homepage, what I've always admired about your guys' brand and your homepage is how forward you are of like your mission and your values, like straight from the jump, like you can't miss it. And I'm that way as well. And I recently had a client like fill out a contact form who was like very not aligned for me personally and still filled out the form. And I was like, I'm going to get on this discovery call and be like, how did you even find your way to here? And like, did you click on any of the other pages? Because your business is in complete opposition to like how I've marketed myself. And it's just like such a curious thing. But I'm wondering if you guys like, was that always intentional from the onset of your brand? Was like, we're going to be like loud and proud about this stuff? Or was this more of a thing that like, as you've built the brand, you've been more comfortable? Because I get a lot of people in the Facebook group or who listen to the podcast, like, I could never put my, I wouldn't even say that these are political views because I don't believe that they're political views, like personally, but that they don't want to put their personal values so like big and bold. And I'm always encouraging them to do so because I'm like, wouldn't you rather work for people that you're aligned with than people that you don't know where they stand on these things? You all know how much I love a brag-worthy brand. And when it comes to creating stickers and labels that elevate your branding, Sticker Giant is the brand that you can trust. Whether you're looking to create something for fun for your next launch, elevate your brand, or add a little extra flair to your packaging, Sticker Giant's custom stickers and labels help your brand get noticed in all the right ways. They've got a dedicated team handling every detail, so you can count on Sticker Giant to bring your designs to life just the way that you imagined. And Sticker Giant stickers and labels are proudly made in the US of A. If you're ready to give your brand that extra boost, go to stickergiant.com and use promo code KMA25 for 25% off your first order. Sticker Giant, your partner in the sticker and label business. Talk to me. I know this is a bit of a divergence from the blog topic, but it's just something I've noticed about you guys that I've always admired that I want to give some airtime to.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. That means a lot.
Of course.
When it comes to our values, I would say I always kind of infuse them into our business from the beginning, especially as a queer person. One of the things that like Jessie and I always think of, even when we're traveling, is we are always trying to shop at places that have like some sort of welcoming message on the door. And that's something we're always personally attracted to because we're like, okay, if I go in here, I know my money is going towards things that like I care about and that like have matter a lot to me. And kind of taking like that idea and just applying it to our own business is something that was always really, really important to me. So I've always been very loud and proud about it. And it's something that, you know, values wise, I've always been like, I personally want to work with people who feel the same way that I do. So yeah, it's just something that's never really been a question, but I definitely understand how it could feel strange to like put your values at the forefront.
Well, I think the culture is unfortunately feels to me like it's going in the wrong direction in that way. Like I feel like people are getting more scared to stick their neck out. And I feel like now is the time that we must. But Jessie, what are you thinking about all of this stuff?
I think one of the biggest things too, especially when we're looking at small businesses, is there's a lot of things that we can learn from big businesses and big corporations. But when it comes to running your own small business, you might be the only person. There might be two people that work, you know, in your business. If you are the only person, you get to choose who you want to work with, and you also have to directly communicate and work with every single person that works with your business. So if you're like, I don't feel comfortable, like I don't even feel comfortable being around this person, that's going to make it really awkward to do your service. Regardless of if it's in person or online, it's going to make it really awkward. Communication is going to be awkward. And you might not even put your whole like heart behind the project itself. And I think a lot, like especially now, people are drawn to people's personalities and working with people that they align with, but also like knowing who they're working with. And so we're always big, even with our clients, like showing off your personality, saying your values, standing up for what you want. There, I promise you, there is a market out there for literally anyone. Like we've had clients who their weddings are like cosplay Renaissance fair weddings. And like they show that on the website. They put they talk about how they're quirky and all this stuff. There are clients out there that are looking for just that. So there is an audience for everyone. And as a business owner, you get to choose who you want to work with and putting these values out there, being like, yes, we are queer led. You know, yes, these are the things that we believe. And these are the things that are non-negotiables for us. And if that's not what you think, and if you disagree with us on these basic things, like we wish you the best of luck, but like we're not the right people for you. And that's totally okay. You can go find someone else. But like we're big on your website should filter both ways. Like bring people in that you want to work with and filter people out that you might not want to work with.
And they'll be better served by working with someone that aligns with their values. You're going to have such a better time finding somebody that has blah, blah, blah in their bio than you are with me. Like, it's going to be better for you. Like, let's save ourselves the headache. But it goes both ways too. Like, we were in contract negotiation for 8 months for a corporation that got all the way to the end of the contract, like contract negotiations, who said that they couldn't work with me because of my extreme leftist political views. And I said that people should be treated like people is kind of wild, that that's extreme. But I said, you know what? That's unfortunate that your team won't be accessing our talent, because I think we're incredibly talented. But if this is a risk for you as a corporation to align yourself with a female-led agency that believes that love is love and people should be treated with respect, and that, like, the things that I've been so vocal about that have, by the way, not changed in the last 8 months of us negotiating this contract, that's wild. That's wild. So it's crazy times out there. It's crazy times. Are you guys hopeful, or are you pessimistic about the way things are going?
I am hopeful that things are going to get better. I think we've seen a lot of people band together, and we've seen
Yeah.
that there maybe aren't as many divisions as we think they are.
Totally.
And
Totally.
there's, a lot of things that people agree on. It's just getting in the right spaces to actually talk things through. So I'm hopeful that things are going to get better. And I think being open and honest about your values and being open to communicate with people and talk to people and say why you believe what you believe and have these conversations is a big thing that's going to make a difference when it comes to all of this. So I think a lot of people I think there is a group of people that are like, I don't know if I can be loud right now. And there's a lot of people who are like, I will be loud for you because,
Yes.
this is something that needs to be done. So I think being able to, take up that space that everybody deserves to have and talk about these things is something that's, finding some common ground and hopefully is going to bring us in a good positive direction.
And that's the free market, right? Is like, if I am loud and proud about my values, I'm going to attract people that are loud and proud and aligned. It's like,
Yeah.
and if this doesn't work from a business perspective, okay, why? Like, we're all in the business of helping people. If me, like, asserting that these values is losing me opportunities, am I willing to compromise on my values to make a buck? Like, no. You know what I mean? Like, it is crazy, but I can see why people feel sticky about it, right? KP, are you an optimist or a little bit more of a pessimist about this stuff?
No, I'm completely with Jessie on everything.
Okay, nice. I like that. No, that's a good reminder. That's a good reminder. And to your guys' point too, right? Like, I think this is when things do get like more polarized, having a great blog presence in the background is really, to bring it full circle, is really going to probably help serve you in the long run. So I love that we touched it all today, huh?
We really did.
Sure
Full
did.
circle moment.
Full circle. Well, where can everyone find you, follow you? Like I said, I've been loving your content on Threads, and I think people should definitely binge your blog to see some examples of what you're talking about. Where can we find you online?
So our website's inkpotcreative.com, and then we're at Inkpot Creative on pretty much every social imaginable.
Love that. Easy. Fabulous. Well, if you guys have any other last words, pieces of advice you want to share, now's your time. Jessie, anything else to say?
Honestly, it is time to step into your personality, show your personality off. People don't like boring brands. People like brands that are loud and proud and stand out and catch their attention. So be that place in your industry.
Love it. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Don't forget, if you love the episode, to please send it to a friend, share it, save it, send us a message, send us a DM. We would love to hear from you. Find us on YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day. Bye.